Hey there! Welcome to Chief's Shop and the first edition of Hey Chief, where I answer your questions about specific projects or about woodworking in general. This time I've got three pretty broad questions, but they will be helpful to not just the folks that ask them, but to people in general. And the first one is about pocket hole plugs. Mike is building the Florida chair set, which includes the chair and the footstool, footrest, and a side table. He says he's done all his cutting, drilling, and sanding. He's going to be assembling soon, and his question is the best way to cut pocket hole plugs flush. Well, Mike, generally I use a Japanese flush cut saw. I've had this one for, 10 years or so. It served me very well. The flush cut saws are important because they've got the flexibility. It allows you to, on the surface of the board, let's say example here, to flex and get flush with it, boom, cut it. The plug's flush. Now I kind of circumvent that a bit by creating my own pocket hole plugs, and I've got a separate video on that where I take a piece of wood. It's already had the holes drilled. I insert a screw and then insert a 3/8 inch dowel into that, cut it flush, and that pretty much gives me a flush pocket hole plug. A lot of people don't like to do that. They like to just cut them flush or sand them down, whatever. You're going to need to sand them down anyway once you get it in there. But that would be my my best suggestion is to use the flush cut saw. Now I know you got some tight spaces that's probably not going to work too well, so that would be a situation where making your own plug would be the best thing. And as an alternative to that, for an outdoor project, you can use an exterior wood filler that is one known not to shrink. That's going to be an issue outside, but you can also use Bondo, and that's not an uncommon material to use for even for wood repairs. You've seen it on those fellows that work on old houses. You know that show. I know that one of the guys has used Bondo to repair like around a door jamb trim. Works really well. You let it set up for a bit and then you can shape it down. So several options there for you on that, if that'll help you out. Okay, the next question is from Dan, and he's asking about sandpaper. I'm looking for an unbiased answer, and you fit the bill. I know when sanding one shouldn't skip around. I'm making an oak toy box or oak chest for my granddaughter. The oak is in great shape, so I was planning on starting at 100 grit and we'll finish at 220. What grits do I need to use to work my way to 220? 120, 150, 180? I wouldn't do more. The oak's in great shape. I wouldn't do more than just a few increments. He wants to start at 100. That's fine. I would do 100, 150, and then 220. Probably doesn't need to really step up in smaller increments. That should be fine. Obviously the coarser grit, we're removing more material, which is better if we've got a lot of saw marks that we're seeing, or marks from the knives on a planer, the little ridges you'll see. Those increments are fine. The thing to remember too is that each step as you go into a finer grit, not only are you sanding it for smoothness, you're also sanding it to remove any sanding marks. You know, if you use a random orbiting sander, you're going to see those swirls, and as we step up in grit, you know, these will remove those marks as well. So I think it'll be fine going in those increments. Again, I wouldn't create much more work for myself by doing smaller increments. But you know, kind of split the difference each time as you go, and I think you'll be just fine. Last question is one I hear a lot from people who are trying to make money from woodworking, and this one is from Eric. And Eric says, I'm looking for red oak for some projects, but I can't afford the box store prices and still make a profit. Any ideas? I call this the holy grail of woodworking, where we're trying to find cheap lumber or free lumber if we can. Eric should look at a lumber yard or hardwood supplier. I'm lucky that I've got one close to me. It's part of a chain here in the South. Depends on where you're at throughout the country. If you're in an isolated area, you're not going to have too much luck typically, depending on what your retail options are. You could order it online for places like Woodcraft or Rockler. By the time you pay shipping, I don't know how much ahead you're going to come out because you're paying retail price on top of that. Try to look for a wholesaler online. There are some out there. Buying in bulk helps, obviously, just like anything else. One thing I recommend too is kind of an unorthodox method, but looking for pieces that you can recycle from old furniture, a garage sale, something that's on the side of the road on trash day, and even maybe a little bit of dumpster diving. Kind of extreme measures, but it's one way to grab some lumber for cheap to nothing. Woodworkers are hoarders. I think everyone can agree with that. So when we find lumber and we find a deal on lumber, we grab it and we hold on to it. You can't see around here, but my shop is full of lumber that I've collected over the years and hold on to because I know I'm going to use it at some point. I do have to do a clean out every once in a while, but there's an example. There's a desk as a repurposing or recycling issue, an old desk that we had bought a long time ago from one of my sons. Got it for pretty cheap, and it no longer serves the purpose we need. So, and it was kind of coming apart, wasn't worth fixing up. So I took it apart. I disassembled that thing and saved probably 80% of the lumber in it, and it's all good quality. A lot of there's actually some white oak in there, believe it or not. It's got a mixture of poplar, various things, and various thicknesses. So I've saved, and I'm looking at it right now, I've saved a good bit of it to reuse. It's even part of the drawers, even any little components like that I've saved that I might be able to reuse. And it's wasn't free initially because we did buy the little desk, but it was pretty cheap even then. And it's something that's going to be reused. I can probably make 5 or 6 small projects out of it, and from a making a profit standpoint, that's somewhere I'm gonna come out ahead. That's one way to look at it. Another way is to just think that lumber is going to be what it's going to be as far as the price, and look at other ways that you can not take some shortcuts, but maybe save a little bit of money. And that's going to be up to your situation. But if you've got a customer that wants something stained, push them toward a color that you've already got a good bit of that stain, or even if you can push them toward using the lumber that you've got a lot of already. That's one way of kind of helping that profit margin that you're looking at. I only do a handful of custom projects a year. A big part of that is because I can't make a big profit. It's not something I make a living off of. Guys that have large shops, production shops, they're going to be able to do that. But if you're just a one-up guy like me, you're not going to make big bucks off of it necessarily. So just think about that on a per project basis. Well, I hope you found these questions and answers helpful, and maybe get thought process on some other things. And I encourage you to email me or post a question on Facebook, and maybe I can answer your specific question. Next time, I'm going to cover some joinery questions, and I had a lot of pocket hole joinery questions come in, so I will cover that a bit more extensively. And like I always like to say, time to get off the computer, get back in the shop, and make some sawdust.